Sometimes Allah gently removes people from your life, not to hurt you, but to protect you, elevate you, and redirect you toward what your soul truly needs. There are moments when you hold on so tightly to someone, an attachment, a relationship, a friendship, a memory, that you don't realize it's you who's breaking in the process. And Allah, in His infinite mercy, begins to loosen your grip, not because you are unworthy, not because you are unlovable, but because He knows what you cannot yet see. He knows that your heart cannot heal while clinging to what keeps hurting it. He knows that your future cannot bloom while it's tied to something that has already reached its end. Letting go is not failure. It is not giving up. It is an act of trust, an act of surrender, an act of choosing peace over chaos, healing over attachment, and Allah over everything else. When you release what was never meant to stay, you make space for what is written for. When you stop chasing those who walk away, you begin to walk toward the one who never leaves. Your worth does not decrease when someone exits your life. Their departure only reveals what your heart was protected from. Your journey is personal, sacred, and designed with divine precision. Focus on your growth, your connection with Allah, your inner peace. The people destined for your path will stay, and those who are not will be gently removed. Trust that Allah sees every tear views, every unanswered question, every silent battle within you. And trust that He never takes without replacing with better. Sometimes not immediately, but always perfectly at the right time. Let them go and allow Allah to write the next chapter of your life with wisdom far greater than your own. Letting go is a form of trusting Allah's plan, not a sign of weakness. It is one of the most profound acts of faith a human heart can perform. Sometimes you hold onto people, situations, or expectations because you believe that losing them will break you. You convince yourself that your strength lies in your ability to endure, to cling, to keep fighting for something that is slipping away. But there comes a moment when Allah whispers into your life through signs, through restlessness in your chest, through doors that no longer open, telling you it is time to release what was never meant to stay. And in that moment, letting go becomes an act of worship. It becomes a declaration that your heart is not anchored to the creation, but to the Creator. When you let go, you are not giving up. You are not lowering your value. You are not failing. You are simply choosing to surrender the outcome to the one who already knows what is best for you. Often, the things you hold onto the tightest are the things that hurt you the most, and Allah in His mercy asks you to loosen your grip so He can fill your life with something better, something purer, calmer, more aligned with your soul. But the human heart fears emptiness. It fears the space that comes after releasing something familiar, even if that familiar thing caused exhaustion, disappointment, or heartbreak. Yet that empty space is exactly where Allah pours healing. It's where clarity grows. It's where the soul breathes again. Letting go requires strength. It requires patience. It requires trust in the unseen. It means believing that Allah is not removing something from your life to punish you, but to protect you. It means understanding that closure doesn't always come through answers, apologies, or explanations. Sometimes closure is simply Allah closing the door Himself. And when He closes a door, it is a mercy, even if your heart doesn't recognize it at first. There are people whose presence would have delayed your growth. There are situations that would have drained your peace. There are paths you would have followed that were not meant for you. Allah knows what you cannot see. He knows where your heart will break and where it will bloom. So letting go becomes a journey of returning to yourself. You begin to remember who you were before the disappointment, before the attachment, before the weight on your chest. You begin to rebuild your relationship with Allah, seeking comfort not in people, but in His nearness. You realize that every loss that brought you closer to Him was never a loss at all. It was guidance. It was pure events. It was love in a form you didn't recognize. And slowly, you begin to feel lighter. The nights become calmer. Your du'as become more sincere. Your heart becomes more spacious, more alive, more rooted in tawakkul. You start to see that what you released was not meant to stay, and what will come will be better than what you cried for. Allah never writes a chapter unless it serves the purpose of your soul. He never removes without replacing with wisdom. When you trust Him enough to let go, He gives you something far more beautiful than what you were afraid to lose. He gives you peace, direction, and a future shaped with divine precision. Letting go is not weakness. It is strength wrapped in surrender. It is the courage to say, Ya Allah, I trust your plan more than my desire. And when you reach that point, the world no longer controls you. Your fears no longer own you. Your heart becomes anchored not to people who can leave, but to the one who never will. Your peace grows when you release attachments that harm your heart. Sometimes the very thing you cling to is the thing that quietly drains your strength, your clarity, and your sense. You hold on to it because it feels familiar, because it once brought comfort, or because you fear that without it, life will become empty. But the truth is, Allah does not let anything leave your life unless it has already served its purpose. And when an attachment begins to weigh you down more than it lifts you up, that is often your soul's way of telling you that it is time to let it go. Peace doesn't come from forcing things to stew. It comes from trusting that what is meant for you will never harm you, and what harms you was never written to stay. Human beings often confuse love with attachment. Love nurtures you, but attachment drains you. Love frees you, but attachment cages you. And many times, it is the unhealthy attachment that keeps you in cycles of overthinking, longing, fear, and emotional exhaustion. You try to fix things that are not yours to fix, chase people who were never yours to keep, and fight to preserve relationships that have already ended in the sight of Allah. These attachments form knots inside the heart, knots that tighten every time you compromise your peace just to hang on a little longer. But the moment you choose to release those attachments, you begin to breathe again. You begin to feel lighter, clearer, and more aligned with your true self. This is because your heart was never meant to be tied to anything temporary with that kind of desperation. Allah created your heart to be anchored in Him alone. Everything else, every person, every relationship, every season of your life is meant to be held gently, not gripped tightly. Letting go does not mean you stop caring. It means you start caring about yourself too. It means you stop allowing your worth to be determined by someone else's presence or absence. It means you honor the quiet whispers inside you that say, this is hurting you more than it is helping you. When you finally listen to that voice, your heart begins to heal. And healing isn't always loud. It begins like fewer heavy thoughts at night, fewer tears over what didn't last, fewer anxieties about what you cannot control. Slowly, the grip of that attachment loosens, and in its place, Allah fills your heart with calm. You start to realize that your peace was never meant to depend on something unstable. You begin to appreciate solitude, reflection, prayer, and the softness of being held by Allah instead of being held hostage by your fears. As your peace grows, you recognize the difference between what feeds your soul and what suffocates it. You stop chasing temporary comfort and start seeking lasting tranquility. You stop tying your happiness to unpredictable people and start grounding it in the one whose mercy is constant. The more you release what harms your heart, the more room you create for what heals it. Allah never asks you to detach from something without giving you something better in return. Sometimes that better. Sometimes it is strength. Sometimes it is a new beginning. And sometimes it is simply the peace of finally being free from what was hurting you. Your heart was created for serenity, not turmoil. And when you let go of what harms it, you don't lose anything. You gain yourself, your peace, and your closeness to Allah. Allah removes people to protect, elevate, and redirect you. It is one of the quietest, yet most profound mercies in your life. Sometimes you do not understand why someone suddenly distances themselves, why a relationship that felt so meaningful begins to fade, or why a person you trusted ends up walking away. Your heart aches, your mind searches for explanations, and you wonder what you did wrong. But often, it is not punishment. It is protection. Allah sees what you cannot see. The intentions hidden behind smiles, the harm that would have unfolded later, the heartbreak that would have been far deeper if He allowed that person to stay. What feels like loss in the moment is often Allah placing a shield around your heart, removing a danger you didn't rent. There are times when you become attached to people who are not good for your soul. Even if they feel good to you or their presence might slow your growth, weaken your relationship with Allah, or distract you from the path He wrote for you. And because you don't see the unseen, you hold on. You fight to keep them in your life. You rewrite yourself to fit their world. But Allah, in His love, intervenes. He begins to separate you from them gently or suddenly, and at first, it hurts. It feels like something precious has been taken from you. Yet in reality, something harmful has been lifted from you. When Allah removes someone, He is often elevating you. He is taking you out of a cycle that was lowering your self-worth, draining your energy, or blocking your spiritual growth. Sometimes He takes away a person to teach you self-respect. Sometimes to teach you patience. Sometimes to show you that you depended too much on creation and not enough on the Creator. Elevation often looks like isolation at first. It looks like loss, silence, and unanswered questions. But every stage of elevation begins with letting go of what weighs you down. And then there is redirection, the divine turning of your heart and your life towards something better. When someone leaves, it creates a space, and Allah fills that space with guidance, clarity, or a new path you never expected. You might look back one day and realize that if Allah had not removed that person, you would not have grown into who you would not have healed the way you have. You would not have found the peace you now experience. His redirection is always purposeful. He takes you away from what was not written for you and leads you toward what was always meant to be yours. It is difficult in the moment because humans cling to what feels familiar. Even if something is hurting us, we fear the empty space that follows letting go. But that empty space is where Allah works the deepest. It is where He rewrites your story, strengthens your heart, and prepares you for something more. The removal is not a void. It is an opening for His mercy to enter. One day, the pain will make sense. One day, you will thank Allah for the people who walked away. Not out of bitterness, but out of clarity. You will realize that their absence was a gift, their departure was protection, and their removal was a turning point that led you to a better version of yourself. Allah never removes without wisdom, and He never redirects without purpose. What He takes is never better than what He will give. Your heart may break when people leave, but it heals stronger when you understand that Allah was guiding you every step of the way. Your worth is not defined by who leaves, but by the one who stays, Allah. People come and go, and their presence in your life is never guaranteed. Sometimes they walk away without warning. Sometimes they drift slowly, and sometimes they leave because their chapter in your story has simply ended. But your heart often interprets their absence as a reflection of your value, as if their departure somehow means you were not enough, not worthy enough, not lovable enough, not important enough. Yet the reality is far more comforting. Human beings are not the authors of your worth. They do not have the power to determine who you are or what you deserve. Your worth was written by Allah long before anyone entered your life, and it remains untouched by their decision to stay or leave. When someone leaves, it does not diminish you, it only reveals what was never meant for your soul. Allah does not allow a person to walk away unless that departure serves a deeper purpose for you. Sometimes it is protection from harm you were unaware of. Sometimes it is a lesson your heart needed. Sometimes it is an opening for something better to enter. But never does their exit mean that you became less valuable. You may feel the sting of loss, but your essence remains whole, honored, and seen by the one who created you. In moments of abandonment, your heart may whisper the wrong messages. It may tell you that you were not enough to make them stay. It may replay every flaw, every mistake, every insecurity. But your heart lies when it measures itself through the eyes of people who were never meant to define you. Allah sees the beauty, sincerity, and struggle inside you that no human is capable of fully understanding. He sees your silent efforts, your quiet sacrifices, your late night tears, and your unspoken prayers. He knows you intimately, your fears, your hopes, your pain, and your potential, and his view of you is the only one that ever matters. Human love is fragile, divine love is unshakable. People leave because they are human, limited in patience, limited in loyalty, limited in understanding. But Allah stays because He is perfect, constant in mercy, constant in care, constant in His nearness. He does not walk away when you are broken. He does not become distant when you struggle. He does not abandon you when you feel unworthy. He moves closer, not further. He answers your pain with compassion and your loneliness with His presence. There is a profound peace that comes when you stop chasing validation from those who left and start grounding your self-worth in the one who never leaves. You begin to realize that your value is not tied to attention or affection from people. It is tied to the one who created your soul, shaped your journey, and wrote your destiny with wisdom and love. You learn to release the need for approval and to embrace the certainty that Allah chose you, loves you, sustains you, and will never forsake you. And when you hold onto that truth, your heart becomes unbreakable in a way that no human could ever offer. You stop viewing departures as rejections and begin to see them as redirection. You stop seeking your worth in temporary places and start anchoring it in the eternal. You stop asking, "Why did they leave me?" and begin to whisper, "Ya Allah, thank you for staying with me." Your worth is not measured by the footsteps walking away, but by the divine presence that never leaves your side. You are valued, cherished, and held, not because of who stays temporarily in your life, but because of the one who stays forever. Focusing on yourself strengthens your spiritual and emotional growth. In a world that constantly pushes you to run after people, to please them, to meet their expectations, you often forget that your greatest responsibility is to your own heart. You become so busy fixing others, supporting others, and holding together relationships that drain you that you neglect the quiet inner space where your soul speaks and your connection with Allah deepens. Focusing on yourself is not selfishness. It is self-preservation, self-respect, and self-awareness. It is choosing to nurture the parts of you that have been ignored for too long. It is giving yourself the time, attention, and compassion that you freely give to everyone else. And when you do that, you begin to grow from the inside out. Spiritual growth begins when you stop scattering your energy and start redirecting it toward your own heart. When you pause the noise around you and turn inward, you begin to hear the whispers of your soul, the wounds that need healing, the habits that need breaking, the prayers that need sincerity. You start realizing how disconnected you may have become from yourself, running on autopilot, seeking validation, or numbing your pain with distractions. Focusing on yourself helps you return to a state of alignment where your heart, your actions, and your intentions move together in harmony. It allows you to deepen your relationship with Allah because you finally have the space to reflect, repent, reconnect, and remember Him with presence instead of hurry. Emotionally, focusing on yourself helps you grow stronger and more resilient. You begin to understand your triggers, your boundaries, your limits. You start recognizing the relationships that nurture you versus the ones that drain you. You stop overextending yourself for people who give you the bare minimum. You learn how to love without losing yourself, how to care without carrying someone else's entire world on your shoulders. Emotional strength doesn't come from avoiding pain. It comes from facing it honestly and healing through it. When you give yourself permission to feel, to process, to rest, you rise with newfound clarity and emotional maturity. And as you grow emotionally, you begin to detach from unhealthy patterns. You stop chasing closure from people who cannot give it. You stop tying your happiness to things outside your controls. You stop expecting others to fill the voids that only Allah can fill. You realize that true peace comes from within, from understanding who you are, what you need, and where your soul finds comfort. You shift from needing the world to validate you to finding validation through your sincerity with Allah. And that shift transforms everything. Focusing on yourself also teaches you gratitude. You begin to appreciate your own journey, your resilience, your small victories, and the way Allah has carried you through every storm. You realize that growth doesn't happen when you're constantly giving yourself away. It happens when you invest in your heart, your faith, your healing, and your purpose. And when you grow, your environment grows with you. Your relationships become healthy. Your boundaries become firmer. Your decisions become wiser. Your life becomes lighter. This kind of self-focus is an act of worship. It's choosing to honor the amana, your soul, that Allah placed within you. It's understanding that you cannot pour into others from an empty heart and that your spiritual and emotional well-being is essential, not optional. The more you focus on yourself in a healthy, mindful, compassionate way, the more you become a person who lives with purpose, presence, and peace. When you strengthen yourself spiritually and emotionally, you don't just transform your own life, you transform the way you show up in the world. You become grounded, centered, and connected to Allah in a way that nothing external can shake. And that is where true growth begins. What is written for you will reach you once you stop chasing what isn't. There is a deep and liberating truth hidden inside this reminder, one that your heart often forgets when it feels empty, afraid, or uncertain. You chase what is not meant for you because you fear missing out on happiness, love, opportunities, or companionships. You run after people who pull away, hold on to situations that drain you, and fight for outcomes that were never written in your destiny. And the chase exhausts you. It steals your peace, weakens your self-worth, and blinds you to the blessings that are quietly trying to reach you. But the moment you stop running after what keeps slipping from your hands, something powerful happens. You create space for what is truly yours to find you without effort, without force, and without fear. Allah has written your story with absolute precision. Every blessing meant for you has a time, a place, and a path already designed. You don't have to beg people to stay, twist yourself to fit what isn't for you, or cling to doors that remain closed no matter how hard you knock. Closed doors are not failures, and the absence of what you have divine protections. And the absence of what you thought you wanted is not a loss. When you chase what isn't written for you, you are trying to rewrite a story that was already perfected by the one who knows your future just as clearly as you're forced. Your heart often confuses desire with destiny. You want something so strongly that you assume it must be good for you. But Allah does not give based on desire alone. He gives based on wisdom, timing, and what will elevate your soul. Sometimes He withholds because your heart is not ready. Sometimes He removes because the thing would have harmed you. Sometimes He delays because the blessing needs time to mature. And sometimes he simply replaces what you wanted with something far better. But you will never see that better if you are still clinging to the wrong things. When you stop chasing what isn't meant for you, you begin to move with the flow of your destiny instead of fighting against it. You learn patience. You learn trust. You learn that what is truly yours will never require you to lose yourself, beg for attention, or sacrifice your peace. What is yours will feel natural, steady, and aligned. It will come with clarity, not confusion, with ease, not constant struggle, with sincerity, not mixed signals. The heart often mistakes chaos for intensity, but what is written for you will not exhaust you. It will complete you. And the beauty of surrender is that it doesn't make you passive, it makes you peaceful. You still work, you still strive, you still make dua, but you no longer chase. You no longer force. You no longer crumble when something slips away, because you understand that anything not meant for you was never going to stay anyway, no matter how tightly you held it. You trust that Allah's timing is not late. You trust that His plan is not flawed. You trust that your story is unfolding exactly as it should. With that trust, your heart becomes lighter. You stop comparing your journey to others. You stop measuring your worth through what you gain or what you lose. You stop fearing the unknown. And you begin to walk with a quiet confidence, knowing that what is meant for you will reach you in its perfect form, at its perfect moment, through a path designed only for you. When you finally release what isn't yours, destiny approaches you effortlessly. Doors open. Doors open. Paths become clear. Blessings that once seemed distant find their way to you with grace. Because what is written for you will always reach you, not by chasing, but by trusting the one who wrote your story.